Welcome to Spidell's California Minute. I'm your host, Catherine Zidane, and this week we're covering a few of the frequently asked questions we've been getting about California's pass-through entity elective tax. We have a 2-hour webinar on February 17th that covers AB 150 and a California budget update, and you can get signed up at caltax.com under the Webinars tab. Also, as we do each year, the California Minute podcast is going on hiatus until after tax season. During tax season, we'll be sending Spidell's Tax Season Tribune, which is a short weekly newsletter that has lighter fare than our regular content. The podcast will resume on April 17th. Since its enactment in July of 2021, there have been almost weekly updates on all the various nuances of California's AB 150 9.3% pass-through entity elective tax. Here are the answers to a few frequently asked questions we've received on our message board recently. First, who can make the election? Qualified entities are S corporations, partnerships, and LLCs taxed as S corporations or partnerships, as long as none of the shareholders or partners or members are partnerships. A partnership is also not a qualified entity if it has a disregarded entity partner that's owned 100% by a partnership. Under current law, single-member LLCs are also not eligible to make the election unless they elect to be taxed as an S corporation, add a member, or in the case of married taxpayers in a community property state, they elect to be treated as a partnership. Remember that making these elections mid-year will result in 2 short-year California returns and 2 $800 annual or minimum franchise tax payments. Next, can you make a late S election? Absent a reasonable cause exception, you have to make this election within 2 months and 15 days after the beginning of the tax year. It's unclear whether a single-member LLC's decision to make the pass-through entity elective tax election would qualify as reasonable cause for late election relief for the 2021 tax year. Another common question is, when is the tax due? For the 2021 tax year, the payment needs to be made by the original filing deadline for the entity return. But similar to income tax extension payments, the full 9.3% has to be paid with the return. Payments made after the original filing deadline will be subject to penalties and interest. If the tax is overpaid, the entity will be refunded the overpaid amount when the return is filed. Another question we've gotten a lot is, are there any credit limitations? And the answer is yes. The credit may not reduce a taxpayer's tentative minimum tax, which could drastically limit the amount of credit a taxpayer can claim. And the tax is considered a business credit, so it's subject to the $5 million business credit limitation. The governor's proposed budget would eliminate these limitations beginning with the 2021 tax year for the tentative minimum tax limitation and for the 2022 tax year for the business credit limitation. Right now, it's not clear whether this change will actually be enacted. We've also been asked, what's the interplay with other credits? The pass-through entity elective tax credit is claimed after any credit that doesn't contain carryover or refundable provisions, but that's claimed before refundable credits and credits that can reduce tentative minimum tax, like the research credit and the other state tax credit. And last, are pass-through entity tax payments refundable? If the entity doesn't make the election on a timely filed return, including extensions, the pass-through entity tax payments that were made will be refunded to the entity. Unfortunately, the taxpayer has to wait to get the refund until after the entity return is filed and processed. There's currently no other mechanism to get immediate refunds of these payments. We ran a much longer list of AB 150 FAQs in the February 2022 issue of Spidell's California Tax Letter. To check out subscription details, go to caltax.com and click on Publications. That's all for this week. We'll be back on April 17th with the next episode of Spidell's California Minute.